Welcome back to the Scotti-BYTE channel, and this is Scott. So today I want to discuss LXD Profiles. I discuss LXD Profiles on the channel frequently, but it's usually just in the context of providing a network configuration. LXD Profiles can be used for many other purposes. You can add a storage pool to a profile. You can add limits like CPU limits and memory limits to your profiles, and you can add settings like security.nesting or boot.autostart equals to true. So we're going to look into some common profile settings in this video. So after you initialize LXD with the LXD init command, right after you've set it up, you only have one profile, and the name of that profile is default. So over time, I've accumulated quite a few profiles, and you can always say LXD profile list, and it will give you the names of your profiles. If you followed my LXD step-by-step video, you know that I also have a profile called bridge profile, and when I use it, it bridges my container over to my bridge 0 device. So something else you can do is you can say LXD profile edit bridge profile, and it will go into the nano editor and let you look at and actually modify the bridge profile. And just as a reminder, the bridge profile uses the container name within the container, or the device name within the container called ETH0, and the NIC type is bridged, and then the parent is actually the bridge 0 device, and it is a NIC, and the name of this thing is bridge profile. You'll also notice when you edit these things, it will list the containers that are currently using that particular profile. So you can make changes to this and then save it out in the nano editor as you would with any editing session. In order to create a profile from scratch, we go ahead and do a LXD profile create, and in this case, I'm going to call the name of the profile I'm creating test. So it tells us that a test profile has been created. Now there's lots of things we can do with that, but one of the things that I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add an association or definition for my root disk device in my default storage pool. And I would do LXD profile device add to the test profile root disk, which is going to be the path equals / which is the root, and use pool equals default for that. So that goes ahead and adds that. And when we create containers, we normally do a LXD launch, and then we'll specify something like Ubuntu :2204, and then we'll say give it the name of the container like test1, and then we'll specify -- profile equals default, and then we'll specify maybe something else. So in this case, we already have the root device defined within the profile, and that's something that we've never done before. So the next thing that we can do here is we can add the concept of the bridged profile by saying LXD profile device add to the test profile ETH0 NIC with the NIC type equals bridged, and then parent equals bridge 0. We can also do things like LXD profile set the profile test limits.memory, and we'll set it to 4 GB, which means that on the upper end, this container is allowed to use up to 4 GB of memory. And then we can go out here and say limits.cpu. And let's suppose that we have a CPU with 8 cores and 2 threads per core. That would be 16 virtual CPUs. Let's say we wanted to allow this container to use up to 2 virtual CPUs. We could say LXD profile set test and then limits.cpu equals to 2. In addition to that, we could also say we wanted to nest a Docker container inside of this particular container when we use this profile to create the container. So I might say LXD profile space set space test and then security.nesting equals to true. And then, as we frequently do on the channel, we can also say boot.autostart equals to true. Now that I've made a number of changes or additions to our test profile, I can do the command LXD profile show test, and that lists out the attributes that I've added to the container, like boot.autostart being true, limits.cpu set at 2, limits.memory set at 4 gigabytes, security.nesting equals to true. We don't yet have any description, which we can go change that with the LXD profile edit test, and we'll simply come down here to where it says description and type in something like description of the test profile. I do a Control O and hit enter to write the file out and a Control X to exit the nano editor. Then I can go back up and do a LXD profile show test, and there we have our description. We also have NIC type equals to bridged, and it's talking to the parent device bridge 0, which we cover in the video LXD step by step. We are also pointing to our root device, and the root device is coming out of the default storage pool. So now let's use our test profile that we've been building with the LXD launch Ubuntu :2204, which is the instance that we want. And then I'm going to call the container scott-test, and the profile is simply going to be test. When I create that container will immediately be bridged to the main LAN and get an address on the main LAN. Boot.autostart will be set equal to true. The amount of memory cap will be set at 4 gigabytes, and it will use 2 virtual CPUs. And it will also set security.nesting equals to true. Now that our container is up and running, we can do a LXD list, and there we have scott-test running at 172.16.1.61, which is an address on my main LAN. The other thing I can do is I can say LXD config edit scott-test, and it will bring up the nano editor, but this time not on the profile, on the actual container. And you can see that boot.autostart is equal to true here. If we scroll down the screen, we can see limits.cpu equals to true, and we can see limits.memory is equal to 4 gigabytes. And then further on down, we have some other settings, and we can basically edit or change anything from here, as well as how we did it from the CLI. So in summary, LXD profiles can define networks, storage pools, limits, and other settings. Profiles are used when you create containers. Profiles are helpful to enforce configuration control for the creation of your containers. And profiles can be modified with either the CLI or via the editor. Anyway, that's it for today. Please subscribe and like to the channel, and don't forget to hit that notification bell and we'll see you next time.